Hey guys, today we're going to talk about the cardiac conduction system. I just want to make sure that you guys really understand the pathway of the cardiac conduction system. Understanding the pathway and the order in which the electricity travels and how it works will really help you understand what you're looking at when you're looking at a rhythm strip that includes the P, the QRS, and the T wave. But first, the cardiac conduction system is a pathway of specialized cells that create and conduct electrical impulses that tell the heart when to pump. The area of the conduction system that initiates the impulses is called the pacemaker. So moving to this next slide, we're going to look at the pacemaker of the heart and where the impulses actually originate and how they travel down through the heart. The first thing that I want to point out to you when we're looking at this heart is kind of cut in half where you can see inside of the heart and where everything actually happens. The electrical system is not on the outer layer of the heart. It is kind of down inside of the heart muscle. It embeds into the heart. So looking at this, the top part of this heart, here and here are your atrium. This is your right atrium, and this is your left atrium. Looking down, this is your right ventricle, and this is your left ventricle. The first thing that you guys need to understand is when the atrium contracts and the ventricles contract, they contract at separate times. The atrium contracts first, and then as it's relaxing, the ventricles kick in and they contract. So the ventricles contract at the same time the atriums are relaxing. So they squeeze separately. The atriums contract first and then they relax, and while they're relaxing, the ventricles contract. So they do not, this whole system does not beat and squeeze at one time. This part contracts and then this part contracts after that. So looking at that, with that being said, let's take a peek at this area of the heart right here. This area that I am circling in the right atrium below the superior vena cava, this is your sinus node. The sinus node is the pacemaker of the heart. This area right here is where all of the impulses begin in a normal heartbeat. So the impulses are originated in the SA node or the sinus node, which is known as the pacemaker. Now you can vaguely see here a line that goes across the top of the heart. This line is the interatrial part of the interatrial tract. When the SA node fires its signal, it goes down a pathway known as the interatrial tract. From the SA node, it travels down this interatrial tract pathway, and it carries these impulses. Once it gets here, they branch out and they go over the atrial tissue. So the SA node sends the signal. It's the pacemaker. It travels down the interatrial tracts, and then the impulse branches out to the atrium. So once they branch out to the atrium and it travels that tract, this makes the atriums, this is part of the atrial depolarization, and this makes those atriums contract. So step 1 is the SA node, step 2 is the interatrial tract, and step 3, it branches out across the atrial tissue, making the atrium contract. So now that we've gotten to step 3, after that happens, the impulses move down the internodal tracts. As they move down the internodal tracts, they go to the AV node, which is a special group of cells located just to the right of the septum in the lower right atrium. So if you see here, this is your septum. The AV node is located just to the right of the septum. The AV node has earned its name of being the gatekeeper of the heart because it controls the impulses that go through to the ventricle. So everything that we've talked about thus far, the SA node, the interatrial tracts, and the atrium, all of this is the electrical activity that's happening in the atriums. It's causing the atriums to contract. Well, next in line is the AV node. The AV node is the gatekeeper. The AV node allows what signals it wants to go through down to the ventricles. So in a perfectly normal heart rhythm, after the impulses leave the interatrial tracts, they go through the internodal tracts, then they hit the AV node. The AV node is the gatekeeper. It allows impulses to travel through to the ventricles. The AV node is a special group of cells located just to the right of the septum in the lower right atrium. The AV node acts to slow impulses a little bit, allowing the newly depolarized atria to propel their blood into the ventricle. Okay, so it slows that electrical impulse just a tad bit. Now, after the electrical activity leaves the AV node, it's slowed it down, it's put the brakes on for a split second. These impulses travel through the next step, which is the bundle of His. And if you look here, let's follow this over and look at the location here of the bundle of His. It's right here. The bundle of His is located beneath the AV node to the left, and after that the current goes to the left and right bundle branches. So you can see here the bundle branches, and you can see one side's on the left and one side's on the right. So after it travels down the bundle of His that's located beneath the AV node, it goes to the left and right bundle branches. These left and right bundle branches are considered the main highway to the ventricles, okay? So after the current travels down these bundle branches, the next step in the process is for it to propel through the Purkinje fibers. And if you look, the Purkinje fibers go around. This is the right side. It comes around and they branch off into the muscle. And if you look over here, the Purkinje fibers come around and they branch off into the muscle, okay? So the Purkinje fibers is almost the last step, but it's not quite. The ventricle is the last step. Once this current hits the Purkinje fibers, that is the end of the track. It hits the ventricles. The Purkinje fibers releases the electricity into the ventricles and causes the ventricles to contract. So looking back at the cardiac conduction system, step 1 is the SA node, which is right here. Step 2 is the interatrial tract, which branches out and goes across the atriums, in which the atrium is step 3. Step 4, it travels down the internodal tracts. Step 5, it hits the AV node, where it puts it on brakes for just a second, so the atrium will have that split second to go into rest. And then they'll travel down the bundle of His, which separates into the right and the left bundle branches, which are right here. And then it goes out into the Purkinje fibers, which are embedded in the muscles of the ventricles, and then it's released into the ventricles and causes the ventricles to contract. Now, let's put this into perspective. The SA node, everything that happens from the SA node across the interatrial tracts and into the atrial tissue paints your P wave. Anything that happens in the ventricles past the AV node, going down the bundle of His and the bundle branches to the Purkinje fibers and the ventricles, this paints your QRS complex. And then once this relaxes and the current has reached the end of the line and the ventricles are ready to relax, that relaxation is what paints the T wave. But anyway, I hope this helps, and if you have any questions, please see me.